Perfect. Thanks, Leroy. So welcome to the free webinar today on Manage Your Energy. It's great to see you here today. And Georgina, Francesco and Paul, if you want to turn your video cameras, feel free to do so. Even if you're slightly distracted and looking at other things, doesn't bother me. It's just good to see real people in this time where we've been a little bit kind of disconnected as such. So I chose to do the webinar, and we've done this webinar, a year ago we did this one, and it was hugely popular. And I just felt that this year, as it's been quite a turbulent year, was the prediction I had for this year. I thought that this year there was going to be more stuff with the pandemic. There was going to be financial crises. There was going to be national and international conflict, natural disasters, and other weird stuff happen, was my prediction for this year. And I didn't realize it was all going to happen by the end of January, but that's kind of the year that a lot of people kind of have had. So the really big thing for me in seeing this year kind of pan out, and us in Byron hinterland here, dealing with 2 floods and stuff, and dealing with lots of external kind of things, is that people are just getting absolutely fatigued, absolutely drained. And that's what I'm seeing as like the biggest risk to people. And just for instance, yesterday and today, I had one client yesterday where she was talking through situation that they've got at work that's been going on for a period of time and everything else like that. And I just looked at her and reflected on what she was saying. And I just said, I think you're knackered. she just like smiled when I am. And I'm like, yeah, because the reality is all that stuff that you've just gone through, you know the answers to them. You're normally on your A game about what you need to do and everything else like that. But it's just feeling kind of like heavy weight, just fatigued. And she said, yeah, I do. And she said, I feel physically exhausted as well. And I said, I feel like I don't need to give you any homework or anything else like that. I feel like you just need to, what is it that you need to do? I know what I do for me. I just have a bath, watch a short game of rugby, and then get an early night. And then I feel so much better. And interestingly, she said, yeah, I just need an early night. She went to bed. She woke up the next morning. She texted me and she said, look, I didn't actually get a very good night's sleep, but by surrendering to it, I actually realized what was actually causing me the problem. And I'll tell you what the problem is for her in a little bit when we go through the model about manage your energy. But it's just, and another person today, I just said to them this morning, how are you doing? And they said, not too bad. And I said to them, that means that you're not too good either. And they burst out crying. And so that was that realization of moment for them, that their energy was absolutely kind of drained. And this is the risk with energy, and for all of us, is that there's so much stuff going on that we're not stopping and coming back to ourselves and actually checking in with ourselves about how actually are we doing. Because like I say to people, there's one common factor in every success in your life, and there's one common factor in every failing, and that's that you were there. So if you're good, everything's good. If you're bad, everything's bad. So let's kind of start with that common factor of looking after our own energy first of all. So quick question, let's go around, because it's a small group, we might as well hear from everyone. Like, why is this subject of interest to you? And let's go ladies first. Eleanor.
Yeah, I think what you just said about we've had 2 years of pandemic. I'm in Melbourne, so we've had significant lockdowns. I think what you said's right. I think everyone's a bit exhausted, overwhelmed. And then on top of that, you've just got, normal life, even outside of all the much bigger things that are happening. There's just general life happening. So I just think you are very good at giving advice and recommendations to manage energy, as I well know. So when I saw that you were doing this, I was really excited to connect back in and hear from you. So yeah,
get that little reminder. Yeah, perfect.
Exactly.
Cool. And Georgina, you were on mute, so you're all right. We didn't hear anything there. That was fine. So why is the subject today important to you?
Because I'm in my 50s, and being female, it's always fun.
Yeah.
So as you get older, you kind of lack the energy as much as what you used to have. And when you're busy and stressed, it's always good to learn how to get more energy. And we all know what we should be doing. It's whether or not we're doing it is the question.
Yeah. And some of that actually, as we kind of get older, there is actually a change in now, like, we can run around and all that kind of stuff there. And in actual fact, our value proposition changes as we kind of get older as well. And it's realizing that one of my coaches, I was away with them for a week period and helping out at a program. And my coach came to me and said, "Hey, Robin, can you get one of the young ones to do this?" And I said, "Oh, I'm here." And she said, no, one of the young youthful ones, can you go and get them to do this? And I said, "Okay." She said, "Robin, there's something you need to understand. Your value is different now." So, but it was really nice to realize, okay, I'm the one who's like the elder, kind of holding that elder kind of energy as opposed to the running around energy. And so,
you're the Yoda.
Yeah, a little bit, not quite, but maybe, somewhere there. So cool. Francesco, what about yourself?
I'll just try to improve my productivity, get some more bucks from my time, get some more stuff. Recently, I noticed like my productivity went down and I'm very tired. And, I got to pretty much 6 o'clock and I'm over. I still got like, 2-3 hours to go before I hit the bed. So try to increase my energy after that.
Cool. That's good. And Paul?
Coming online here, sorry. Yeah, it's more personal reasons, just probably like everyone else. Making sure that you recognise things. I think that's probably more that you don't go down a rabbit hole and get caught up in things and then you start to lose a lot that's going on. So hoping to get a bit of maybe recognition and see some of the signs that maybe come up before it happens. Yeah, that sort of thing.
No, perfect. And Martin?
Mine was more about my colleagues go through a very, very busy time, and I think was mentioned before, we're pretty badly under-resourced at the moment, and so people are on the verge of, when you talk to them, they seem like they're on the verge of burnout.
Yeah.
And they don't know, you get into a rut or you get into a pattern or a habit where you just can't stop, you just got to keep going, never say no, and all of those sorts of things. And so it's not probably directly related, but that was my motivation, just to see whether there are any things in that you can suggest that sort of assist in that area, so that we can manage ourselves as a team and as individuals.
No, that's cool. And Francesco and yourself, there might, and one of the things, like there's two that I do. One is on about managing your energy, and the other is about time and productivity. So but if you manage your energy well, the time and the productivity looks after itself a lot of the time. Do you know what I mean? And then when your energy's low, you're like, oh, I need to fix the time and the productivity. But in actual fact, you've got an empty tank to start with. So it's like these two subjects. I'm going to concentrate on the energy side of things, and then I'll refer back to some of the time and priority management side of things. But they very much go together. And so, like you said, Marty, just looking at people, are you looking at your staff or yourself or anyone else dreading every morning, reeling from the effects of COVID, the war in the Ukraine, fearing that an event may kind of come next? There's feeling like you're lacking purpose, meaning and joy, feeling guilty for not having the energy to spend with your family or do the things that give you joy, fatigued with the constant change and disruptions. Hiya, Kate.
Hi.
Feel like you're working so hard but seem to be going backwards. It's not you. Like I say, the world has changed, and so do we. And the reality is that, well, it's not a reality, it's my prediction, I suppose. But I felt that this year was going to be turbulent. And then all the turbulence happened at the very early part. And somebody said, oh, what's your prediction for the rest? I said, it's going to be even more turbulent. Like, it's not, I just don't think the world is suddenly going to go, you know what? I think you're right. We're all going too fast. We're all going to chill out and have a really chilled year. Do you know what I mean? I just can't see that happening. Do you know what I mean? So the reality is, and this is one of the first things in dealing with energy, and dealing with a lot of situations is that we create resistance, we create anxiety, we create frustration when we're forcing against a reality. Okay, when we're forcing against a reality. So if our reality is, for instance, that we've got a whole number of things on and we're like, no, I need to get them all done, you're pushing against a reality and it creates a resistance. There's the need to kind of stop and actually accept the reality that's going on for you. And I think, Francesco, you kind of, you know, said something around that about just kind of stopping and going, right, what's actually kind of going on here? There's the really big need for doing that, because in actual fact, the reality that I see is there's more pressures on us than ever before, and that we need to accept that our energy and our time is actually under pressure. We just need to accept it. It's not like a doom and gloomy thing. It's just like we need to accept it so then we can have the right strategies for looking after ourselves in the best possible way for ourselves. So energy basics, I just kind of cover this energy cycle. People don't even realize some of this, that we have tension on one end of the spectrum. We have relaxation, integration on the other. We need tension to kind of charge up our energy. You know, Monday morning, oh God, I got Monday morning. Okay, let's launch. It's kind of like your takeoff kind of your period. And then we use our energy in this yellow, you know, so that Monday morning or, you know, during the day, we're charged up with energy and we're using our energy. But then also we need to discharge our energy out as a cycle so that we have relaxation and integration so that we can go into good quality sleep to then do the same cycle. And again, this comes back to just realizing that this is a cycle. A lot of us have the expectation that, can you see my cursor here, by the way? Yeah. A lot of us have the expectation, hey, jump out of bed, ding, I'm straight up here being in the yellow. Like, it's not a reality. You need to warm yourself up. A tip that I give to a lot of people is who maybe start struggling with a particular time of the day, let's say Monday morning. I say, why don't you develop, you know, the Eleanor Barnes Monday morning quick start program, which is Monday morning. What does Eleanor need to do to get all cylinders firing? Okay, I need 3 shots of coffee. I need to go for a walk. I need to be left. My wife, kids, leave me alone for the first 30 minutes and then I'll be all right. Do you know what I mean? What are those boundaries? What are those simple things that you need to do to acknowledge this cycle? And again, on the discharge out, you know, if this happens to you or other people, how many people come back from work at the end of that yellow bit, come back home and then get, you know, bamboozled with an onslaught of jobs and action from home? You know what I mean? Like, it could be kids, it could be dogs, it could be anything. And they're wanting to keep you up there when you're actually wanting to kind of taper down your energy. And so it's just realizing that we have this cycle for all of us, and where we feel frustration is where we're forcing against this kind of cycle, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to kind of give that as just a you know, an absolute basics around some energy management. And if we don't do the charging up, if we don't do the use, if we don't do the discharging and don't kind of relax, the whole system starts to go into a sense of fatigue. We're out of balance if we don't have that rhythm. As I'm going, if there's any questions, just come off a mute and ask me straight away. I'm happy to take questions as we go, or otherwise I'll just kind of keep moving, if that makes sense. Any questions for anyone so far? No. It's like the general kind of intro.
I'm just going to quick one there, Robin. Yeah. Sometimes we find that you become a bit of a junkie to adrenaline, so that you actually need that tension throughout.
Yeah.
The fire.
Yeah.
And it's exhaustion or whatever it is, but you actually can find that you leave things to the critical moment. To get the adrenaline in there to actually produce the product sometimes. Otherwise, you muddle along.
Correct. And if you know your personality works like that, then plan for it and that kind of thing. But you also touched on another subject, or maybe directly, which is that stress is actually addictive. Stress is as addictive as cocaine, because what it does is it gives you a dopamine hit. It gives you an adrenaline hit. And it's the same thing as like illicit drugs. It gives you, by the way, this isn't like manage your energy. Everyone go and start taking drugs, by the way. Okay, just I know that we're recording this, but it's a matter of like, when you feel stress, your body reacts with adrenaline to go into fight, flight, or freeze. And then you have a come down after that, which feels good as that relaxing kind of hit. And it's like a hit that you get. And that's why when people say you're addicted to stress, that's what it actually is. Your body is physically reacting the same way as if it was taking an illegal substance. And then that's where in high pressure jobs, that becomes an addiction. Do you know what I mean? And that's why people sometimes in high powered jobs, they need to have the illegal drugs to keep that edge, because that's what gives them the edge. Do you know what I mean? And that's just clearly not sustainable in the long run. And that's why people, you know, end up not making very good decisions going into rehab and those types of things. So it's actually that we need to have acceptance that we all need a flow. Does that make sense? Yeah. The key thing, I mean, this was an article by the Harvard Business Review some time ago, and I still think it's really valid. They still talk about it in a whole range of different ways, and lots of books and stuff have been really about it, which is this whole thing that if you want to be more productive, then you've got to manage your energy first. Because the thing is that it's just a matter of, you know, if you put batteries that are dead into an electronic device, it just ain't going to work. And to be honest, we're no different. If we don't charge ourselves up with energy, we haven't got the energy to actually put into actions and anything else like that. And so what we need to do is we actually just need to manage our energy much better and not our time. And the key thing is that when we're talking about energy, there's these 4 types of energy. And I'm going to go through each of them and just ask you to think about it and go, right, what do you do? Because it's not necessarily, the key thing with this is about doing what feels right for you, because you all know when you do a particular thing, it feels good. So you just need to go back to doing it. So I'm going to give you the prompter of the framework, but think about what is your quick start program or what works for you, because like meditation will work for some and it won't work for others. Going for walks in the country or chopping wood, or, you know, for instance, my brother is a mental health nurse, has been for a whole period of time. The psychologists there go, oh, Jeff, you need to be doing this mindfulness stuff. He's like, no, I just need to go and play rugby. So I just go and bash into people on a Saturday. I let all my energy go and then I'm all right for the next week. You know, that's what he does. So it's a matter of whatever works for you. So the 4 types of energy are body energy. So body energy is your physical energy. You know, your muscular, your sleep, your body energy. How are you looking after your physical energy? Your mental energy is your brain energy. So when you feel mentally fatigued, for instance, and by the way, your neocortex, the front part of your brain, actually uses more energy than your old part of the brain. That's why when you're doing new things, you feel physically tired, because your new brain is activated, which uses up more physical energy. That's why if you go to a conference or whatever, you end up eating, you know, more of the morning teas and the lunches and stuff like that, because you're trying to fuel yourself with energy because your front part of the brain is kind of activated. Emotional energy is that it's about feelings and emotions. This is one that I think that in modern day society is done super poorly. You know, if someone's angry at work, then that's inappropriate. No, anger is an emotion that, if suppressed, will just come out and leak out in other ways, which are destructive for society. It's okay to feel angry. Do you know what I mean? It's okay not to hit someone, obviously, but it's okay to express kind of different emotions, and we need to kind of embrace how we're emotionally kind of feeling. And there's been massive amounts of emotional suppression, which I think is the fact that, you know, at least 2 or 3 of us here are probably on antidepressants, is the truth. You know, like it's just crazy. Spiritual energy. So this is where people go, oh, Robin's from Byron Bay. This is where the woo-woo comes out. So spiritual energy it can be religious, but spiritual energy is about your connection to self. That's it. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. So the 4 areas of managing your energy are each of these 4, and they all kind of interplay with one another, because if you do an action for one of your energy types, it can help one of the other ones. And I'll talk about that as we go through each of them. Any questions on the 4 first of all, though? No. Let's get into it. Symptom of body energy, you're feeling physically exhausted. What's interesting is the truth is that you might not actually be physically exhausted. When people are physically exhausted and they haven't actually been doing any physical exercise, what do you think's going on there? So you feel physically exhausted, but you haven't actually been doing any exercise. What do you think's going on there?
You're mentally exhausted.
You go.
What was that?
Sorry, Francis was going.
You go, Francis.
I said, like, you mentally exhausted.
You're mentally correct. You're mentally exhausted. That's where sometimes you can be physically exhausted. But if you stop and ask yourself, am I physically exhausted? The answer might be no. If you did some physical exercise at that time, it can really energize you and make you feel better. Because in actual fact, the problem is your mental and emotional energy are actually drained, which is making you feel physically exhausted. Do some physical exercise and it can help process the emotions and the mental kind of clarity so that you feel better. This is why you kind of have to ask yourself the truth about what's really going on in these different energy types. But let's just take this one, body energy, feeling physically exhausted. This was the research that showed the top reasons why people are suffering from body energy depletion. The first is that they're not getting enough sleep. I get 8 hours of sleep every single night. And I've got a ring, it's like a Fitbit, it tells you your readiness score. My quality of my sleep is approximately 90% every single night. My readiness score that it gives me every day is approximately, on average, about 82%. It goes up to like 90 and down to 70, but it's in that range, So I know that I'm starting every day from a pretty good basis, yeah. This one's an interesting one. I frequently skip breakfast or I settle for something that isn't nutritious. So, for instance, some people fast in the mornings, and that can work for you. So it's not necessarily that you have breakfast. It's more about having an unhealthy start to the day. So if you intermittent fast, that's fine. But if you're not sleeping well, you're not doing your quick start program in the morning, then it's not helping you. Also, if you're not working out enough, meaning cardiovascular, like that can be, for instance, a lot of people put pressure on themselves for doing physical training. If you've got young kids, for instance, running around after young kids is all the physical exercise you need, or if you're kind of more manual, do you know what I mean? So there can be supplementation for this. By the way, if you do physical exercise in the morning, the way that it instigates all your hormones and everything else like that, you are more likely to sleep better the following night as a consequence. So do the exercise in the morning, like 12, whatever, 14 hours later, 16 hours later that you actually go to bed, you will actually sleep better as a consequence, because the way your hormone cycle kind of goes. So again, if you're going to do exercise, mornings is best. Again, there's exceptions to the rules. I know people who I go really hard at the gym and I go straight to bed and I'm knocked out for 8 hours. People can do that. But normally what happens if you exercise at night, it gets you really charged up with energy, and then you go, right, I'm going to go to bed, and your heart's kind of going like this still. Do you know what I mean? There's that disconnection. But again, there's always exceptions to the rules. Body energy that you're not taking regular breaks for the day. For me, I'm sat here in my office, working with COVID. We're on the screen so much more. I've got a field in front of me and I walk around. Unfortunately, the floods took out the Telstra tower and I don't have phone reception. So I used to do walks as I was on the phone, and I can't do that anymore. And I've really noticed how it's kind of impacting my physical hips because I'm sat down so much more than what I was before. So body energy, what do you need to do? This is the one that I think that gets the blame for the other ones, where in actual fact, we need to do more exercise. The first thing is create a pre-sleep ritual. If you know that you suffer with bad sleep, just Google top tips for sleep. turn off electronic devices, you know, like at least an hour before going to bed, eat 3 hours before going to bed, dim your lights down, turn your screen, if you're on a screen, turn it to iFlux, which turns it to a better light for dimming down your brain, for instance, things like that. Actually going to bed at a consistent time and getting up at a consistent time actually helps it. Doing exercise in the morning. These are all tips that you can do to actually kind of help with sleep. And the other is create a morning ritual. So what's actually going to work better for you? It might be to get up a little bit early in the morning to do certain things. And there's lots of morning rituals kind of out there. But again, what works for you? I do a little bit of exercise. I do some stuff with the kids. I actually mentally kind of plan out my day, for instance. So these are the two key ones. And a lot of the people, if I just get someone to declare war on getting better sleep during the week, then, you know, within a week, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe how much better I feel. It's amazing that just doing that alone is a game changer for people. Obviously doing exercise, and it doesn't have to be massive. It can be just lightweight, going for a walk for 20 minutes every single morning or 3 times a morning. That's all that's needed. But regards to body energy, any kind of other things that people do for body energy or want to know about how to manage body energy better? No, that one's pretty a simple one. The mental one is about feeling overwhelmed, even with simple things. Like, that, you know, just that picture of that guy, that's just how I feel sometimes. I just feel like that, you know, like it's just, yeah. And that's where you can feel physically exhausted. And this is where you know, when your mental energy is going, it's when you have difficulty focusing on one thing at a time. And then you're constantly kind of distracted, you know, you're here, there and everywhere. And you're just focusing on the immediate crisis. What's the next thing? 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 You don't have enough time for reflection, strategizing, creative thinking. You just, you know, you're kind of like working all the time. And it can be that you have a kind of an impulse reaction to your phone. You find yourself picking your phone up and you don't even actually know why you're picking it up, to check emails, to check, because it's just become a default kind of way of doing things. And this is when we get to really feeling just like overwhelmed kind of mentally. And also this one can really impact sleep because you can't switch off. And also this is like procrastination, going around and around and around on thinking about the same kind of things. It's like just draining your mental energy. The first thing to absolute first of all that you need to do is you just need to get out of your head. You need to be observant. You need to realize, wait a minute. And I did this once. I gave an example where I think it was in the fear training. I just realized that I kept thinking about my bank balance and, you know, money and stuff like that. And I just realized it was going around and around in my head. I'm like, man, that's draining my energy. So when something's doing it, go closer to it. I got out my head and I actually looked at my bank balance and I was, oh, shit. In actual fact, I do have a problem. I need to sort something out. I was like, you know, it's amazing that it was going around and around and around, but I hadn't actually grabbed it and done something. So how do we get cut through of mental energy? We need to grab it, be observant of where our mind is running ourselves rather than ourselves running our mind. Get out of your head and actually be hard on the problem, easy on yourself. Just kind of write it down. So for instance, as well, if you're overwhelmed with how much you've got to do, what's the 3 things that you're going to do today? Just get those 3 things down and that's it. Just focus on them, for instance. Doing exercise is a great one for mental energy. When you do a job that's involving mental, do something physical. You know, I'm back playing soccer again and I just keep injuring my body energy and I'm too old to be doing it, but I love it because, like I say to my wife when I go back, she was like, how was soccer? I said, it was awesome. And she said, why is that? And I said, because I just ran around for 2 hours going ball, 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 ball. And that's all I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just thinking about the ball. I'm like a dog, you know what I mean? Running around, injuring myself. But that helps shift my kind of energy and it absolutely helps you as well on the emotional one, which we'll kind of come to. Get clarity. Where your mind is going around and around and around on something, it's because there's an unknown. And what you need to do is get clarity. So getting out your head, resetting expectations. Like what I say again is just declaring war on it. Get out and just declare war on getting clarity on the different things that you're in head. What are you actually going to do? They're the key things to do. With mental energy, set the rituals, e.g., you know, top things I must get done today. Having that every morning. I have it every morning. I go and get a coffee. And while I'm waiting for my coffee, I sit there and go, right, what's the priorities of the day? What's the focus? What's the energy? I get mentally clear so that when I walk into this office, I'm straight into it because I've primed myself outside, you know, in a nice environment, waiting for my coffee. Like I said, be easy on yourself, hard on the problem, write it all down. And what our ego tells us is, oh no, it's more complicated than that. It's not. You just need to stop and write it down. And that's all that you really need to do. So mental energy, any questions, queries, any other helpful tips or hints that people use for managing their mental energy? While I take a sip. Is this resonating with anyone? Georgina says yes. Oh, you're still on mute, Georgina.
I'm too old to play soccer and I still do.
Oh, do you? Good on you. Good
Yeah,
on you.
yep.
I've got 4 more years to go and I might be able to play in the same team as my son. And I said that to him last night and he said, but you'll be too old.
Well, I understand our back line is 4 people are 200. We're all 52 years of age and we mark 16-year-olds.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So the next one is emotional energy. This is the one that we all like to shy away from. But this is the reality when our emotional energy is out of whack. If we're being short with people or we've got a short fuse, if we're getting grumpy, if we're waking up and feeling flat, if we're taking it out on people and getting frustrated with other people, we're getting angry with other people, we're thinking, why can't other people kind of do this and that and the other? In actual fact, the problem is internally with us, and it's actually our emotional energy that we need to kind of come back to. So the symptoms of this is that I find myself feeling irritable and impatient or anxious at work, especially when work is demanding. Like, to be honest, I don't know pretty much anyone who doesn't feel that right now, you know, to some degree. Do you know what I mean? There are a few fortunate people that are like, no, I'm really good and what's kind of good. But the majority of people right now, these ones, and it really does come from emotional suppression. I don't have enough time with my family and loved ones. When I'm with them, I'm not always really with them. You know, I'm on my phone or I'm on this or that, the other. I have too little time for the activities that I most deeply enjoy. When was it I actually just did something for myself and not for my family, my kids, my partner, my, you know, whatever? When did I just do something for myself? I don't stop frequently express my appreciation to others or to savor my accomplishments and blessings. I don't have an attitude of gratitude, for instance. So these are the symptoms that if you're experiencing any of them, it's actually signaling that you are out of balance with your emotional energy. And so how to balance that is that the first thing that we need to do is we need to process emotions and feelings effectively. And I come back to Francesco, I think you said that you just need to stop and realize what's going on. That's the biggest thing, is that, you know, someone said to me this morning, Robin, is there a universal answer to this kind of problem? I said, yeah, go slower. Like if you just stopped and actually just went a little bit slower and assessed, okay, what's going on today? How do I want to be? What do I want to do to show up and be the best version of myself? If you just slowed up a little bit, I reckon that is pretty much the universal solution for most things, to be honest. And we need to slow up because it's hard to hear a voice when there's so many other voices happening. So to listen to ourselves, we need to be in an environment of being a little bit quieter, to come into ourselves, to hear ourselves. We need to acknowledge our feelings, and then we need to ask, what do I then need to do as a consequence of those feelings? And often if we're feeling a negative emotion, it's, I reckon 90% of the time, it's an internal unmet need. Okay. I'm going to say that again because it's kind of important. Whenever I'm feeling a negative emotion, anger, frustration, anxiety, whatever, it's all because there's an internal unmet need, which means that I'm not doing something for myself. It's not about anyone else. It's about me not doing it. Does that make sense? And this is when we're pointing the fingers, we need to point to back at ourselves, because it's actually just an unmet need ourselves. Yeah. Now, what's interesting with the emotional energy one, that client I spoke about you, who thought it was body energy that she needed to fix and get an early night's sleep, and she didn't get an early night's sleep, but what she realized through surrendering and letting go and me giving her permission to have a night off, she relaxed, went into silence, and then actually felt that what it was, the reason why she was feeling exhausted is that she was emotionally drained because there's someone at work who now is going to have to leave as a consequence of what was happening. And she actually felt quite depressed and sad about that. And that was the reality. And she was like, now I felt that reality, I can kind of grieve the fact that I've lost the person in my business who's going to be amazing. And now I feel like I can move on. So it's amazing that when you kind of do one, the real answer can kind of come up. And for her, she doesn't need to do anything. It's just like she realize that she just needed to grieve for the fact that she's losing someone in a business that she didn't want to lose. The 4 stages of process and emotion are this: identification and awareness of emotions and feelings. So Eleanor, let me ask you this question. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, definitely in need of some input into myself.
Input into yourself. So what emotion are you feeling right now?
Right now, I'm actually feeling better, because I'm realizing that I haven't made enough time for myself, and that's why I've been feeling exhausted.
Okay, exhausted is the kind of emotion, but better isn't. Most people, if you go into the office and say how you're feeling, you'll get okay, not bad, pretty good, fair, all right. None of that is actually an emotion. Sad,
No.
happy, anxious, exhausted, drained, inspired, optimistic, hopeful. We realize how lame we are at identifying emotions because we just don't use them anymore. We just use judgments of good or fair or whatever the case may be. So it's really important to dig below and identify, what's actually going on, and then accept that you feel like that. And then from feeling like that, then you can process to act in an emotionally appropriate way kind of from there on in. And then finally address the emotions of whatever's needed. A lot of the time you don't have to address it once you identify it and accept it. You do the first 2 and then you kind of let yourself go, This is really, really super important, this stuff. I do a whole training. It's one of the most important ones that we do. There's some, tips here, like, just to have as self-dialogue questions. What feelings and sensations do I have? Where am I feeling it in my body? Are there contradicting thoughts or feelings? Am I having judgments about self or others? Well, just to actually stop and actually consider some of these questions for yourself to help you identify what is actually kind of going on with you. The biggest tip that I'll give you, I think it's the next slide. Yes. So this is a feelings wheel. So when I ask people how they're feeling and they say good or fair, and I say it's not a feeling, and then they're like, yeah, I'm pretty happy, and literally if I ask people, especially people, professionals, and ask them, let's brainstorm emotions, we normally don't get over 10. And then when I show them that this is not an exhaustive list, but this just shows you the diversity of different emotions that we feel as human beings. Our emotions are actually the human being's guidance system, because fear comes up when our bodies are under risk or we're under risk. Fear comes up as an emotional guidance system to put us into alert, and it physiologically changes our body and our hormones and, and everything else like that. Our emotional system is so, so important. And in modern day society, we're being numbed and it's being switched off. And so I think there's a huge, huge need to literally have this image. So if you just Google emotional wheel, you'll get images like this pop up left, right, and center. To have that as your screensaver or your background to your and actually just to connect in with how am I actually feeling. And when you do that, you tend to go, you know what, I'm feeling a little bit lonely over in the sad category. I'm feeling a bit insecure in the fear. But to be honest, I'm feeling a bit kind of like joyful as well. And so you start to realize that emotions aren't linear. They're not just in one bucket. You can be feeling elements of all the different things, depending on what's kind of happening with your life. So I just wanted to expand this context of thinking about your emotional energy and thinking about it in a way that maybe you haven't thought about it before, and realizing how important it is, because we've become emotionally congested, I kind of feel. And if we just let go of some of that steam, then we can kind of release ourselves. Any questions on that from anyone at all? So now there's whole executive, for my clients, there's whole executive teams who have that image on their standing weekly agenda as executives, and they've even at board level now they've got that, and they check in with the directors, right? How's everyone feeling? They've got the emotional we're there to reference, which is kind of nice. So processing emotions. Yeah, again, these are just some helpful. We'll send this. Can we send the slides out to everyone, Nero? Yeah, we'll send you the slides so you got them again. Helpful kind of questions to prompt yourself on what's going on for you, so that you can process those emotions for yourself. The last one is spiritual energy. This one is the big ticket one. This is the one that when you're becoming really fatigued, this is the one that literally, if you're physically, let's say that you're mentally exhausted with a new job at work and pressures of finance and schools and COVID and all this kind of stuff, and you're mentally exhausted, that doesn't feel good. You start getting emotionally drained, the Ukraine kind of war and all this kind of stuff. I'm painting a beautiful picture here, aren't I? And then you feel physically kind of exhausted and depleted, and you can't get out of bed anymore, and you're like, oh God, what am I going to do with my life, you know? And the answer to all of them is spiritual energy. Because what we start to do is we start to lose our sense of self in amongst all of that background noise of everyday kind of life. And spiritual energy is the one that kind of, when we start to lose our sense of self, and this is true, when people lose the sense of self, that's when they commit suicide, right? That's the ultimate kind of, when they just don't have a sense of belonging and self and connection anymore. So that's how bad it can kind of get for people. But it's also the thing of why people can have so much bad stuff happen to them, but they keep soldiering on, because they've got that strong power of sense of self inside of them. And that's why the human being is so strong in these kind of situations. So spiritual energy is your connection to your true self. Now, some people get connected to their true self by their religion, you know, whatever religion it is that you kind of follow. Some people get that sense of self through a kind of religion, but you might get it through different kind of means. And this is the one that when you connect back to your true sense of self, it kind of recalibrates all the rest, you know, like you literally, yeah, it defrags all the rest of them. But the symptoms of spiritual energy is that you're busy achieving but feeling unfulfilled. Your business may not be contributing to your goals. You're just basically losing the essence of you. You don't even know what your purpose is, or why am I doing, what am I doing here? You know, that's when you're losing your sense of self. I don't spend enough time at work doing what I do best and enjoy most. There's significant gaps between what I say is most important in my life and how I'm actually allocating my time and my energy. My decisions at work are more often influenced by external demands. I don't invest enough time and energy in myself, I'm supposed to say. The other thing is, when you're out of whack with your sense of self, that's when people turn to drink and drugs, porn, rock and roll, you know, whatever. It's because there's a void inside that we then see to get fulfilled by other means. So yeah, I saw some statistics on void filling of professionals, and it was, I can't remember the statistic now, it was something crazy. It even shocked me about how high it was, you know, that it's literally the overwhelming majority of void filling: food, drink, drugs, whatever the case may be. That's the truth that's kind of happening behind the scenes, and it's because we're out of whack with our sense of self. So it's a matter of asking ourselves which part of, you know, our lives is misaligned to our true self, and are we showing up being the true version of ourselves? It's actually about coming back and doing simple actions. It's a matter of coming back to simplicity that are based on our long-term goals about who we are as people. And so the how we get connected back to our spiritual energy, our sense of self, is very individualistic to us. I think I've given a couple here. So for me, getting into nature, there's nothing like getting into nature to feel connected back to my sense of self. There's something about it for me. Some people surf, some people go to church. When I call my mum, and we can have all the financial problems of the world and everything else like that, but then if I call my mum, she says, "Oh, hello, how are you?" As soon as she says that, I'm just brought back to my sense of self. You know what I mean? I'm just that little boy again. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all right, to be honest, mum. You know, and it helps me cut through that. It can be sport, it can be physical activities, you know, it can be treating yourself, you know, like a spa day or a weekend away. It's whatever we do to kind of recharge our spiritual energy. So questions on balancing spiritual energy and anything else, or tips or advice that you do to kind of get reconnected back with yourself again. Because when you do that, you just feel totally energized in yourself again. You can get the clarity on all the other kind of things. No. So don't overcomplicate it. It's about doing the simple things. We know what we need to do. You've got to have some humility and vulnerability to admit that you're struggling, or you're seeing someone struggle with one of these, and just give them the simple tips of what to do. And why I put humility and vulnerability is our ego kicks in and go, oh, it's more complicated than that. And it's not. It's the simple things done consistently give you the outcome that you want. I'm just going to give you one other kind of model. We spoke a bit about this stuff. Sometimes we're so caught up in stuff, we can't see a way out, you know, or are we fighting against the reality or the inevitable? We need to accept the situation for what it is, stop getting caught up on the mess, and kind of find our way out. And there's a little thing as well here that I like, CIA. So what we need to realize is, what is it that we actually control? We control whether or not we go to bed at that time. We control if we do exercise at that time. We control all those actions in managing your energy better. You absolutely control. But there's also some things that you don't control that maybe you can influence them. And we need to realize this, because, and I'll put the A up as well, except, because in actual fact, there's some things that we don't control that we get caught up on, and all our energy gets caught up on all these things. But in actual fact, we don't even control it. And we just need to accept them for what they are and put our efforts into the things that we do control. There's things that we can influence, and that we need to pick our battles. For a lot of people who are energy drained, we're actually spending a lot of time and energy and effort on things that we don't control, we don't influence, and we just need to accept they are what they are. We need to look at the things that we can influence and pick our battles with them, because we're not going to put our energy into everything we can influence. But what we tend to do is we tend to not take the opportunity with the things that we do control, which is like obviously just the basics of looking after our energy. So just, you know, this can be a really important model for people to realize that, yeah, they've just totally put out too much. They need to wind it back and go back to doing the simple things that they control. And the final model I'm just going to go through here is, this is a personal resilience model. That how do you build personal resilience in energy? And these are the 4 pillars of it, which is your health, which, if you think about it, is your mental, your physical, and your emotional health. So if you're looking after that, you're going to be generally more resilient. So if your health is really good, some bad stuff can happen, but you're pretty solid. Your SOS on the right-hand side here is your spiritual energy, which is your sense of self. If you're really strong in your sense of self. The other 2 pillars of the personal resilience model is security. You know, do you own your own house? You know, do you live in a non-flood prone area, which I don't, unfortunately. You know, what's your sense of security with your job, with your income, with those types of things? Your sense of security in your relationship. And then social connectedness. Are you connected with things that have meaning and purpose and friends and family and all that kind of stuff? And so when you're thinking, if your personal resilience is a little bit lower, break it down and think in these 4 pillars and go, which one is a thinner pillar that I need to start to put a little bit of energy and effort kind of into? Or do I know that one of those pillars is going to be impacted? Therefore, I need to boost myself in the other areas. Because the thing that happens is that if, you know, our health's bad, what can happen is the whole thing could kind of fall over. And this is what kind of happens for us, is that we get impacted in one area of our life and then it can impact the others. So focusing on those 4 areas can generally lift your level of personal resilience. So what are we trying to achieve with all of this? We want to be able to withstand and adapt to everyday pressures and recover as quickly as possible. The reality is that our resilience is under pressure like never before. So it's the simple actions that we need to take out of all of them. So I would love to hear, if people want to jump in the chat or just come off mute, what out of all of that is one action that you think that you could take away to concentrate on? It may just be, look, I'm going to concentrate on my emotional energy or my sleep or whatever the case may be. But what's one insight that you're taking away as something that you can focus on to improve your energy or help others improve their energy?
If I might start, I would like to start with a routine in the morning, like you pointed out. Get the exercise and have a proper start. And I noticed I have very bad on that. And yeah, definitely have to work on that.
And the big reason why people start a morning routine and then don't continue it, because they put too higher expectation. They're like, oh, this guy on Instagram reckons you need to run for half an hour, you need to meditate for an hour, you need to do your gratitude practice for 45 minutes, you need to eat a mung bean green smoothie and then stand on your head for 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, the reality is that you could do that and it could work, but it's a matter of just doing the simple things that are the most impactful. Does that make sense? So just have a realistic expectation for yourself, and then it will be more consistent. Consistency is the key thing. Yeah. Awesome. Great stuff. Georgina, you're off mute, I think.
I haven't been here for half of it. I apologise. Yeah, I've engaged with a really good acupuncturist, so to help me with my sleeping. So I'm lacking sleep at the moment, so that's my big thing at the moment.
Yeah, perfect. Eleanor?
I think reminding myself that I've got permission to carve time out for myself. That's one thing.
You don't do it for yourself. Why do we think everyone else should for us?
So I really need to do that, and I think that will make my body, my mental, my emotional, and my spiritual all get lifted significantly if I do that.
Yes, perfect. Mr. Downing.
Yeah, I think, as you know, I'm trying to sort of get some clarity on a couple of things, some future concepts, and I think as we talked, filters and so forth. So that's a project that I'm working on. I think that goes to the mental health.
Yeah, and then it will help the other ones. As soon as you do one-on-one, it then helps all the others.
Yep.
So, and Paul?
Yeah, I think sleep will be a key one. I seem to be able to sleep. Yeah, so wake up at maybe 4 o'clock every morning. So try and work on what's causing that, and see if I can get to the bottom of it and use some of your little prompts there and some of your ideas. Think about it.
Yeah. And it's also about just accepting your own individuality. Like, some people, they're like, the honest truth is I've got a lot of energy from 4 till 8 o'clock in the morning. Cool. Well, if that works for you and it works everywhere else, then just use it. Sometimes we're forcing against like it's unorthodox, but if it works, it works. Because I believe in everything's a theory to be tested on ourselves,
Just getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning might be a hard thing.
Staying
awake, but actually getting up's a different story.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, no, that's perfect. Tony, are you there? Have you got any insights on how much of it you were here for?
Yeah, sorry guys, I came in a wee bit late, but no, I enjoyed what I did here, and I think take time for myself is my big takeaway. You know, you tend to find that the last couple of years have been pretty challenging, and even the last 6 months has been very trying, and you continue to push yourself as hard as possible to, you know, take yourself and the team forward. But just sometimes you need to be able to step back a little bit and take some reflection time, some me time. And I think that's probably what I need to do.
Perfect. I know we're right at the top of the hour. We'll send some links around if you're interested. You know, Martin, I work with Eleanor. We've worked historically together. A couple of things that we've got coming up. If you want to connect to your spiritual energy, your sense of self, I'm doing a nature connection weekend here by Wollongong Mountain, the most easterly part of Australia. It's where the sun hits mainland Australia. It's quite a beautiful location. We've got some more information on that. Lero will send a link around. He might put it in the chat. That is an awesome weekend. It's like the best thing that I've done in my career. I love it. So if you want to come with us, there's 5 places left, I think, for that weekend. If you want to come off grid with me and have some fun. Yeah, the link's just in the chat. This is the work that we do. Basically, I work with leaders, professionals on 2 main things: meaning, joy, and purpose, and probably balance is the big thing within that as well. So that you're achieving what you want out of life, just in a balanced way. And then also for some people, it's about increasing their level of influence and impact to help them achieve the goal. They're the 2 things that I work on in my coaching, training, and advising that I do, working with individuals. If any of the people, you know, want to kind of catch up for a 25-minute kind of free session just to talk about anything in the webinar or anything, I just give it over to you, whatever you want to talk about for 25 minutes. I'm happy to give you advice, guidance on anything you've got. It could be implementation of this, whatever. The link's in the chat. Feel free to, and Lero email it, feel free to book in for a session. And yeah, Eleanor, if you want to book in a session, it'd be great just to kind of catch up and hear about how the new job's all going. But it's always good when I don't hear from clients again, because I know that they're all smiles. I think that's it. Yeah, there's lots of other things that you can download for free with, you know, I just try and give as much out for free as possible to help people. I've got the book that's behind me there, and a video Kickstarter series and a LinkedIn group and YouTube stuff for any of you if you're interested as well. And that's it. That's me. So just as a final wrap up, and you're all still here, you haven't all dashed off straight away, is there any kind of final questions, queries, comments? Yeah, I'm happy to answer anything that you guys have got. Paul looks all good.
Yeah, most definitely.
I'm
Awesome.
good. Thank you for your session.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. You guys all take care. If you need anything, just let us know, and enjoy the rest of your week. Take care, everyone. Bye now.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.